In this video, I'm going to give you the standard fingering for a chromatic scale, and it's enough to get you started and enough to get you by when you're confronted with a chromatic passage in your orchestra repertoire or your solo repertoire. The fingering will help you. Sometimes you'll have to tweak the fingering I'm going to give you based on your starting note and your ending note. It doesn't always work exactly like a cookie cutter, but if you understand the logic and how to work around it and how to tweak it for different situations, then you should be able to kind of help yourself when you're confronted with a chromatic passage. Why do we even want a chromatic scale fingering? Why can't we just go 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4? You know the answer to that, and that's because when you're playing fast, that can get really sloppy, it can get inaccurate, it can sound out of tune, and just kind of messy, especially when it's a slurred chromatic passage. Then you really need a chromatic fingering. So that's why. So to understand the logic behind the chromatic scale fingering, you need to know kind of how many, let's count how many pitches there are in one position before we could go to the next string. Of course, we could always shift, but if we start on open D, how many notes are there before we hit the note A? The answer is 7. The 8th note would be A. Listen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry. So there's 7 unique pitches, and the 8th one would be a perfect 5th, and you could go to the new string after that. So the chromatic scale fingering when you're in first position is 0, 1, 2, and then shift to 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 7 notes. And then you'd be on to the next string. Watch this. Okay, and it works really nice. Sounds magical. If you practice this a little bit though, you'll notice sometimes your open string sounds out of tune. Oh crud. And that's because you didn't measure your half steps accurately. So practicing a chromatic scale will improve your intonation because it'll really teach you what a half step truly is. It also robs us of any kind of tonal center. So you're not going to be calibrated to D major or to G major because there is no tonal center in a chromatic scale. There's just the knowledge of what a half step is, combined with my favorite thing, ringy notes. I always am aware of where a ringy note should be, and if I don't hear a ringy note where I know there should be one, then I start trying to make adjustments to correct myself. Okay, so to repeat, in first position, let's start on the G string. Play 0, 1, 2, all half steps, and then you have to shift your first finger to where the next half step would be. 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, new string. And so on and so forth. Now, when we're coming down, it's same thing. You just do the same thing backwards. You just have to practice a little bit to teach your 4th finger how to find his spot. After you nail your 4th finger, everyone else is just a next door neighbor. A flat, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, open, 4, 3, 2, And that general pattern or that formula will carry you through a lot of your chromatic stuff. But if it ever doesn't work out, sometimes we'll do a single finger slide, like 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. We might do a single second finger slide just because it helps us to end. It lends us one extra finger. Instead of going to a new string, it would extend our little chromatic run on one string. It adds one artificial finger. And one little slide doesn't really hurt. Instead of 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, that could get really sloppy. But just a single finger slide in the middle of a nice chromatic fingering isn't going to hurt anything. So that's how you tweak it. Now, what about when you aren't in first position anymore? Just remember that the fifth, our violin is tuned in fifths, and remember that in any position, there's going to be 7 notes before you are a fifth up and can go to the next string. So let's start in third position on the D string, and let's count how many notes before we get to D in third position on the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So because we don't have an open string, because we're not in first position, you no longer have that open string helping you play one note. So instead of 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you cross this to the new string, but you have to shift back down because you did a little mini shift up. Hope I'm not getting too technical for you. But the main thing is counting half steps, and then just plan out how you can achieve the number of half steps you need with the number of fingers you have, and you start recognizing recurring patterns a lot. But if I were you, if you're just starting out exploring chromatic scales, I would just practice starting on your G string and do 1 octave. Then start on your D string and do 1 octave. A string, do 1 octave. And then I would start with G string and do 2 octaves. So that would just go up to this note on the E string. And in that case, instead of going open 1, 2, and then shifting, I know that's the end of my scale. So in that case, I would do 3, and then I'd come back down. Let me show you that really quick. 1, 2, 3. And make sure that as you're going up and down, that your open strings sound in tune. Because if they don't, you're misjudging your half steps. I was going to give you a rule, but it depends on if you're ascending or descending. So I can't tell you if your strings sound flat, if you were too big or too small on your half steps. I can't tell you that because it depends on if you're going up or coming down. Just let it be known that if your open strings sound out of tune, you need to adjust the size of your half steps. Okay? All right, so I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.